Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about Rage Hezekiah's poetry collection, Unslakable. This is really good. I loved this poetry collection. I basically, I read it in about half an hour. It was so good. So Hezekiah deals with a couple of sort of major themes within this collection. Issues of family dynamics, particularly dysfunctional or abusive family dynamics, and issues of sort of discovering oneself, of finding happiness, I guess is the right way to put it, right? Finding happiness in these relationships with other people. Typically as an adult. And there is a kind of progression across the poems because it starts very much with these childhood poems of abuse and dysfunction. So the first poem in the collection, for instance, is called Temperance. At 6, I craved the crash of glass, my want electric and unslakable, for the shattering sound like a fissure, familiar. My mother broke dishes drunk, with rage flung ceramic onto the cement from our back porch, her laughter punishing the silence of no one to blame. I'd wait and pitch her abandoned bottles, wet and lipsticked, onto the pavement. I stood above a broken window, awaiting fresh wreckage. Dad cracked walls, hurled furniture, whatever nouns his hands found. He pulled my bedroom door clean off its hinges to find me cowering behind a vacant frame. In my parents' final fight, they emerged from the basement streaked with ancient paint, wearing evidence of an explosion. Both marked our hardwood floor with ghostly footprints, a subtle tutorial in animus. And then we've got the next poem that I want to read you, the second poem in the collection, Salem, takes a different sort of approach where it's less about the experience of the family and more about the poet persona's sort of self-experience and need to seek out solitude, to seek out some kind of protection away from this environment. So this is Salem. At 9, I understand the solitude of the cove before dawn and steal across the street while my parents sleep, facing opposite directions. They won't know the way I strip bare on this beach to swim in darkness. Only when my feet can't find the bottom do I fear the ocean, and yet I bargain, dare myself, to swim where I can barely touch. If I reach the buoys, there'll be no more yelling. The check won't bounce at the grocery store. Mom's car won't hit the median when she comes home from the bar. My fingers barely brush the bobbing mass, but any contact counts. I rush to shore, stand on land, wrap myself in a plush bath towel so big it drags along the sand. At home, I've learned to push my clothes against the edges of my bedroom closet. When I do, there's space enough to sit. So again, we're dealing in the early portion of this collection with this very damaged space and the psyches that inhabit it. We start to see one particular way of navigating these spaces of abuse, of familial chaos, etc., in reproducing those patterns of destruction, right? The smashing of glass, the smashing of bottles, mirroring the smashing of ceramics, of walls, of door frames, etc. by the speaker's parents. We see another method of coping in this sort of escapism out into solitary spaces of the ocean at night or the closet or whatever it is. As the collection goes on, we see another coping mechanism, which is very aptly the title of the next poem that I'm going to read you, Keeping Up Appearances. This sort of pretense that things are healthy, things are normal, things are safe. So this is keeping up appearances. For my sister Rosalie. In the tradition of stiff drinks and troughs of white wine, we've been trained to remain in the realm of I am fine, to unlearn the familiar good of our Caribbean grandfather and forget how to answer, how are you? Practice saying, well, focus on my health. I tell you I'll do anything, in part to dismantle the guilt of leaving you too long with a drowning mother. She's offered vague apologies before for things she won't remember that we can't forget. In sobriety, she believes a single trip to confessional where she tells of her abortion absolves it all were the ones she kept. I wear a $300 dress at your wedding, shoes and jewels that match the sea breeze swath you've carried in your clutch for months. You coordinated every decoration with desperate precision and effort to control something tangible. 20 years ago at family events, we kids tried to hide the cassette tape, attempted to prevent the part where all the adults cut loose to that B-52's album. Our mother and her brothers, ruddy and sweating, clothes speckled with the wet of spilled rum, puddles on the hardwood. What if we tried to stop them because it made us unbearably sad? So, I mean, that's the sort of central portion of the first half or so of this collection. It is this sort of exploration of these family dynamics and how the neglect, the alcoholism, the violence, the chaos really damages not only the poet persona, but the poet persona's relationship with her sister and these connections with others, the link to the grandfather, etc., etc. And so we get all of those things. And that thematic is sort of carried through into the second portion of this book. But it becomes much less central. It's much less important to what's going on. And what becomes much more important is finding connections, building connections. So I do want to read you one poem that is sort of interested in those family dynamics, those parental dynamics, the abuse almost dynamics. It's called Mirabella Pool. Her infant body bobs below the chlorinated surface. Over and over she goes under, screams and chokes each time. Her mouth opens into air. A primal howl ricochets off cement walls, trapped in echo. At the child's side, an adult in a wetsuit marked instructor stands in shallow water, submerges her, and waits for the babe's face to reappear, saying, "Yes, good job, Gabby, good." I can't look away. After each lap of breaststroke, I return to stare, pretend to adjust my goggles, watch her not drown, near drown, on a loop that won't relent. She's learning not to swim, but to self-rescue. Roll onto her back to float, find breath and repose, but these are foreign lessons. She can't understand or consent, only panics for her next breath, while her parents stand by, detached. This is for her own good, and theirs. They come to spare themselves an accidental loss. First, you teach the child what it is to drown, so she'll know to save herself. And, I mean, yeah, I think that's... there is this sort of abusive component to it, almost, right? And it does raise these sort of questions about, like, this idea of preparing a child for the world, the cruel, uncaring, indifferent world, etc., etc. Toughen children up, etc., etc. And it raises these sort of questions about, is this abusive? Is there a positive side to it? What is it worth to treat children in this kind of way? And I mean, I taught swimming when I was in high school, I was a swimming instructor, and I did on occasion teach infant swim lessons. I don't remember like dunking a kid underwater and letting them float back up to teach them to try and rescue themselves. But there is this sort of thematic element, right, of this sort of idea, especially in more sort of old school, traditional or conservative parenting styles, where you let someone suffer because it builds self-reliance, right? This idea. And I don't know that that's a good thing. But it does, on a different level, seem to be... It does seem to be the sort of connecting thread of Unslakable, right? Is this sort of idea that you go through these painful, traumatic, suffering experiences, and as a result of that, you can come out stronger. And that's really what the second half of the collection is focused on. So I'm going to read you a couple of poems about that. Really interested in, again, building relationships or establishing relationships that become meaningful and fulfilling. So I think this one is pronounced psilocybin. I'm not 100% sure of that. I didn't look it up. Psilocybin. I'm going with psilocybin. If that's wrong, let me know in the comments. You and I ride our bikes to Ipswich River, and I dispense the only advice I've been given. Just let them take you, I say, placing a small handful of caps in your palm. We sit on the muddy shore eating tuna, anticipating magic. A slow undulation sets in, its pulse warming the wet ground, and we lie, watching trees become hands holding everything to the sky. I can smell my own sweat, and I'm weeping about my attempts to mask this scent. You're crying too about how you hate your cunt, and I'm telling you, your everything is beautiful. We watch a shallow puddle teem with the life of tiny organisms, pressing our arms into the mess. We roll around and giggle. For hours we swim and sing until we mount our bikes again, stopping at a farm stand to fondle the summer berries. Lambs bound about their pastures, and I watch your face collapse as you realize their food, the awful truth of cycles. The meadows full of alyssum and clover, the August breeze sweet. I want it to last for as long as it will last. And so again, there is this very sort of positive, uplifting element to this. And the last one I want to read you has a similar kind of component of sort of just being together, right? More than any particular activity necessarily, just to be with someone that you care deeply about, and how rewarding and positive that can be, in contrast very much to the earlier poems in the collection, where being around the people that one is supposed to care about and who are supposed to care for one was a deeply unpleasant experience. So this is called Nude Beach. With the rare freedom of being bare, clutching homebrewed beers in our fists, we perch on sun-warmed rocks in California. Queer and stoned, our canvas bags heavy with farm stand carrots, local peanut butter, seeded bread from the nearby bakery dumpster, provisions for sunset. Our unshaven legs lined up like variegated piano keys, we roll thick joints, raise a kite into the sky, release the line till it ascends beyond the thin strips of cirrus clouds. From our backs we watch it soar for hours, staking our claim to this small patch of sand, a haven for 3 bodies on a homemade blanket. Nobody can say we aren't women, our breasts splayed, dark hair blooming between our legs, beneath our arms. Unashamed of, we smell of earthen smoke. Like a team of harbor seals, we sprawl across each other, bark and giggle until the watermelon sky hugs the Pacific. Here we lay down our longing. an unexpected coven, we reclaim the bellow of our voices, revel in our natural power.